Okay, so I guess I got cut off from that video there. I guess YouTube only allows 10-minute videos, so I don't know how far you heard me get on Edwin Jackson, but Edwin Jackson, last year was really his first fantasy relevant year. I mean, last year he posted a 14-11 record, but his peripherals are just trash and wasn't worth owning at all. And he played on the Rays, and you know, even though the Rays were good, he wasn't. But last year, he was very surprising. First year with Detroit, you know, comes out behind Verlander, and he was a solid starter for them. His record was only 13-9, but his WHIP was significantly down from his career average of 1.51 down to 1.26. Opponents only hit 247 against him. ERA was 3.6, which as a fantasy starter for a number 3 fantasy starter, that's that's great. If you can get that out of your 13 wins, solid ERA, solid WHIP, get through 200 innings out of him, you'll take that. And going to Arizona, I don't see anything different from him. Maybe one less win. I mean, maybe. I mean, the Diamondbacks' offense isn't anything to write home about. Not great. They score some runs. It's a big ballpark, so he'll get some help there. Over Pitcher's Park, I mean, he won't have to be. There's no pressure on him. The Diamondbacks, aren't really going anywhere. I mean, he won't be a top starter. He'll be a third starter in the rotation, which no pressure on him there. He'll be behind Herron and Webb, you know. So I see I see him having, I mean, a very nice year. I mean, he cashed in on his season last year, and I really think he'll keep up the same. I mean, I don't see any reason why he's gonna not do what he did last year. I mean, it's totally normal. Right now they have Max Scherzer rated the 32nd pitcher or over at Mock Draft Central. Uh, Average draft position of 146. Edwin Jackson is the 39th, 167. I will tell you right now. I'll tell you right now. You draft Edwin Jackson before Max Scherzer every single time. Every single time. He will put up way better numbers. Max Scherzer will get hurt. Edwin Jackson will put 13 wins on the board with a 3.7 ERA, 1.25 WHIP. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. You're gonna do that, and you're gonna regret it if you take Max Scherzer. I'm just saying. I'm just gonna. I'm just gonna get really angry if you take Max Scherzer. If you take Max Scherzer, I'm gonna kill you. Okay, that's simple. I'm gonna kill you. I mean, Edwin Jackson. I mean, I'm taking him ahead of Carlos Zambrano. I'm Wandy Rodriguez. Wow, I can't believe he's rated that low. I wouldn't take him ahead of Wayne. Scott Baker, absolutely. Scherzer, like I said, Brandon Webb. Who knows? He's coming off surgery. Who knows with him? I mean, anything's possible. I mean, I could see Edwin Jackson going all the way up to 32nd, which would make him a solid number 3 starter in our league. Solid 3 or 4 easily. I mean, the dude, he can show he can pitch. He got a nice fastball, 96. I mean, and he'll strike out people for you. I mean, let's see. Last year he had 160 Ks. I mean, what more can you ask for from your third or fourth starter in fantasy? Nothing. You can't ask anything more out of him. I mean, he broke down a little bit at the end, but he's got another season under his belt. Um, so that should be good for him. I mean, so okay. So continuing on, we have about 6 minutes. We're gonna discuss real quickly what Detroit got other than the Boston Max Scherzer. I mean, so Detroit got from the Yankees, in addition to Max Scherzer from the Diamondbacks, they got a reliever, Phil Koku. He's a good lefty reliever, but he won't matter in fantasy wise. And they got a AAA prospect, one of the Yankees' best, in Austin Jackson. Now, Austin Jackson in the minor leagues, he was a pretty average hitter. I mean, he hit 300. He got his, 15 or so home runs around there. He stole about 35 stolen bases. I mean, not. I mean, there were good numbers in AAA, but not. He wasn't exactly raking it down there. I mean, he looks right now like a poor man's Curtis Granderson. Curtis Granderson obviously proven he's done in the major leagues, and the Yankees were willing to deal Jackson because I have this ceiling for Jackson being Curtis Granderson right now. I mean, and Granderson already proven he can do in the major leagues, and Jackson hasn't. So Granderson will, I think, will have a better career overall than Jackson does. I could be wrong, but defensively, although it matters little for fantasy wise, they play I think around the same. But Granderson I think brings a little more offensively. But Austin Jackson will he'll have a chance to start, I believe, in the outfield for a starting spot. I mean, looking right now at the Detroit Tigers, I mean they've got Carlos Guillen in left right now on the depth chart with some guy named Don Kelly, and in center field they have Granderson who's no longer there, and Wilkin Ramirez, and right Maglio Ordonez and Cleet Thomas. I mean, Austin Jackson will be given a chance to compete for that starting job. Will he win it? I don't know. Maybe they'll let him start in AAA and then come up to the major leagues. But fantasy wise, I don't really see him you know being on a roster. I mean, he's not really gonna give you anything that you already can't find. I mean, he's not gonna give you an extreme amount of stolen bases. Not gonna hit for a ridiculously high average, driving a lot of runs, score a lot of runs, hit a lot of home runs. He's gonna be your average. Your average player, which in fantasy, I mean, there are those guys are a dime a dozen. I don't really see him factoring in. My overall assessment of the trade is if the Yankees can sort of figure out what happened to Granderson, figure out how to fix him with hitting lefties, and sort of reduce that strikeouts to about 100, 110 at the most. The trade right now favors right now in this time favors the Yankees. Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks actually they come out okay with this. I mean, the Tigers. I'm not sure why they would take Scherzer. He's got injury written all over him, and but we'll see. Those trades really. I mean, between the Diamondbacks and the Tigers, too early to sort of tell how that's gonna pan out. But for the Yankees, if they get that fixed out, they're the clear winners of this trade. And I'll leave you with one last thing. If you draft Max Scherzer before Edwin Jackson in your fantasy league, I will come over your house and I will kill you and I will get really angry. And we all know what happens when I get really angry. I go, good night.